here with Sarah Coy from Coy Makeup. She has her own YouTube channel, and the reason I have a bare face today is because she is going to be doing a demo for me on wedding day makeup on her channel that you should check out. I'll link that below, and I'll have a link at the end of this video. And we are just going to do a wedding day makeup do's and don'ts Q&A for your pleasure. So I have all of my questions on my cell phone. First things first, I tend to get dehydrated skin really easily, and I'm getting too old to be washing my face with baby shampoo and not moisturizing regularly. So what would you recommend in terms of serums and moisturizers that are really good specifically for dehydrated skin?
Okay, so I actually think that in a lot of ways dehydrated skin is due to the cleanser as well. So I'm really big on using balms to remove your makeup instead of harsh cleansers. I know with me, whenever I use anything that kind of suds up or has like a soap quality to it, what ends up happening is my skin gets really dry and really tight, and then I overproduce oil. So I get dry patches and oil simultaneously. But I do like a serum. I think that they have a lot of moisture to them.
Yeah.
Or I almost use like an overnight moisturizer during the day if my skin's dry. Yeah, omega-3. That's what I mean.
Okay.
So taking omega-3 orally keeps your skin really hydrated, and then also drinking lots of water is going to make your skin look amazing and also help counteract eczema and stuff like that.
Also, I suddenly have acne for the first time in my life, which is very exciting. And on top of it, I am slightly allergic to salicylic acid. So what can you recommend that might help kind of reduce the acne spots that I already have from picking at my face, and also reduce my odds of getting another breakout?
Okay, so I used Brightening on myself, and I have eczema and I have rosacea, and for some reason Brightening didn't really bother me once I got past the first phase.
Okay.
And that's what helped with my adult acne more than anything. But I would say in terms of cleansers, moisturizers, and things that don't have salicylic acid that are going to irritate your skin but also get it clean, REN is a really good skincare line that I use that is the only thing that doesn't irritate me.
So in terms of my foundation, I'm obviously going to be having a lot of photos taken on my wedding day, and I don't want something that's going to flash back and make me look the way I do right now. Bright white. What can you recommend in terms of good foundations that don't have SPF that's going to produce that flash?
Okay, I like MAC's Face and Body Foundation. It's transfer resistant, it has a dewy finish to it, and you can also build up each layer, so I'll be using that on you later in the other tutorial. And then I also like Makeup Forever's HD, though I do find that sometimes I need a little bit more coverage, so you will need to use a concealer with either Face and Body or Makeup Forever's HD foundation.
Okay, and you're going to be doing the demo later, but for the purposes of this video, what would you recommend using to apply that foundation?
Ooh, I always like a fluffy brush, like a fuzzy brush. Sorry, it's kind of gross. But like this one, something with synthetic fibers, because synthetic fibers won't shed the way that natural fibers will, and you won't have to pluck all these little like brush hairs off your face after.
Nice.
And then if it's nice and fluffy like this, you can buff everything in and then get that really kind of airbrush look without the streaks. But this keeps it from getting too heavy.
How crucial is primer?
Not at all.
Awesome. Good to know. So what would you recommend that's going to keep everything in place? Is it really just what kind of powder you use to set it with, or something about what you choose for your foundation or how you apply it that's going to make it last?
Layering things is definitely a way to have everything stay on your face more. So like layering your blush with a cream blush underneath and then a powder on top is going to make it stay on longer. Setting any liquid foundation with a setting powder, not a finishing powder, not an HD powder. I'm very passionate about this. Those don't set anything. All they do is flash back in photos. So using an actual just straight up setting powder, it's basically like baby powder for your face. It just locks everything in place. And it's mostly the product that you're using in terms of like what foundation you're actually using, what the base of the foundation is, whether it's a water base or a cream base, or it has like silicone. I don't know, but those ones tend to stay a lot better. So. Okay.
What would you recommend that for the most part people don't seem to have allergic reactions to as often when you're doing people's makeup on set and such?
And anything without a fragrance. Fragrance is a horrible addition to foundations and any makeup, and it just opens up the floodgates for any kind of an allergy possibility. So we don't keep them in our kits. I gotta say, MAC face and body, I haven't had anyone react to it. And then staying away from mineral oil. A lot of people have a reaction to mineral oil, so a lot of things that are marketed as really natural and hypoallergenic actually make my face itch so bad.
Yeah. We're gonna be getting married in Puerto Rico, and it's humid and it's hot and it's sunny, and probably just walking down the aisle I'm gonna work up a sweat and be disgusting. Then we'll take photos, and then we're gonna be dancing at the reception. So would you recommend using a fixative spray, or is that just kind of pointless?
Okay, so again, if you have a lot of allergies, I think fixer sprays can inflame and irritate things. So some fixer sprays have a lot of alcohol in them. Other fixer sprays have like minerals and stuff like that in them. So actually, some of them make my face itch a lot, and I tend to stay away from them just because you're just adding more, and it's just more opportunity for you to have a reaction to something.
What kind of setting powder do you love and recommend?
Honestly, it doesn't have to be super duper expensive. MAC has a setting powder that I use just because I have my discount there and I go shopping there, and that's where I get my stuff.
Nice.
But you can get it at the drugstore. I bet you e.l.f. makes one. Whatever you do, don't use the HT or the setting e.l.f. powder, because that will flash back white.
What ingredients should I look for or avoid in a setting powder?
Okay, so there's a lot of hype about talc. Talc is what makes setting powders work. It's what absorbs the oil in your face, and it's also just kind of what makes it matte, because it is basically setting everything. I don't know how else to say it. Yeah. So talc is going to be the main ingredient in a setting powder.
Okay.
Ingredients to avoid are silica. That's the ingredients in the other powders.
In the HD powders.
Yeah, and that's what is going to flash back white. You're going to avoid titanium dioxide. Titanium dioxide is the active ingredient in sunscreen, and it is what causes foundations to flash back. Yeah, but don't be afraid if you see titanium dioxide in something, because it is a coloring agent. So if it's one of the first ingredients, beware. If it's one of the later ingredients, it's probably not going to flash back.
Okay, good to know. I would have never known that.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of applying a finishing powder, should I use like the little puff that comes with it, or a big fluffy brush, or a smaller brush? Should I be buffing it in, or just kind of doing like a loose brush over everything that I want to set?
It depends. I usually, just because there's such a big time lapse in between when people are done with me and then like they have about 10 or 15 minutes before they go back out, I just dust it on with a powder and then maybe take a clean brush and dust off any excess.
Okay.
That's one way to do it. I think powder puffs are kind of messy, and you run the risk of like taking off your eyebrows or something else.
Oh, okay.
Brushes are a pretty easy way to avoid that.
I need my eyebrows.
Yeah. But honestly, they're all good.
Would a powder or a cream blush lend themselves better to kind of achieving and maintaining that dewy finish that you want, or is there something that you want to avoid necessarily for wedding makeup that some powder blushes have?
Okay, so I think the most important thing is to try it out ahead of time and to know if any bronzers or any foundation, anything that you're using could oxidize. And what that means is it's on your face and it mixes with the oils in your face and then mixes with the air. It gets darker and turns a different color.
Oh.
So I see this a lot with people's blush or their bronzer, where it just starts getting patchy and strange and darker. And that's even why, like, if you wear Studio Fix, that powder, it gets darker after you put it on. It's because the oils in your face mix with it and cause it to oxidize. So you want to aim for something that you know how it's going to behave, and the only way you're going to know that is by trying it. But if you want a dewy finish, I think a cream blush is a lot better.
Okay.
Or using something like a highlighted, like a Becca Skin Illuminator or something like that right on your cheekbone, right around your eye socket, can be really pretty.
Nice. What are your favorite blushes that are really great long wear blushes?
Honestly, okay, this is gonna sound terrible. I love NYX or NYX's cream blushes, and I use them every day. I'm wearing one right now, but I'm wearing it layered with MAC's Cubic blush.
Oh.
So I just happen to have a lot of MAC because of whatever reason, but there's no like hierarchy. But yeah, just these little guys, I think they're like $5.
Awesome.
And I use them all day long.
I love that.
Yeah.
Should I carry some kind of powder for touch-ups or oil blotting sheets? What would you recommend?
I almost feel like oil blotting sheets can make your skin go into hyperdrive.
Oh, okay.
But just like how just like how if a cleanser clears everything off your skin and then your skin's like, wait, I need moisture, and then it starts going nuts. I kind of feel like the rice paper thing, like they do that to me.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
So I like to use a powder, but a setting powder. So basically the one that you're using afterwards to set, it's just like what you would have on set, just to make sure everyone's matte.
Perfect. So I've never had acne before, so now that I do have, and it's a little bit better today, but since I've never had it before my entire life, I have no idea how to conceal it, and it seems like there are different things that need to be done for different types of spots. So like the ones that I've had for 3 or 4 days tend to kind of split open and they're crusty and flaky. I have no idea what to use to cover those.
Okay. I think it can be really good to have a serum underneath them.
Okay.
So like a moisture serum, because it's going to keep the skin moisturized and less flaky. I think that's the trick whenever you're doing anything on top of like a scab or like dead, dry, kind of like flaking up skin.
Okay.
I guess. Sorry.
Cool.
That's a nice way to word it. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is the color correction. So if you're counteracting red, you want to use something with, don't use green. Nobody needs green on their face. It's too much. But just use something with a little bit of yellow in it. So you don't want to use a pink, like a pink based or a peach based concealer. You want to use something that has more yellow in it, because that's going to counteract the red more.
Perfect. That was my next question. So what would you recommend doing? Like, I feel this lurker right here, and it's going to be a big bulgy pimple later today, but it's not going to split open for probably like 3 or 4 days. What would you recommend to prep the area beforehand and that might kind of minimize the shadow from the lurker?
Ooh, so 3D elements are kind of difficult to hide. The thing to think about when is kind of like, you can kind of contour your zits. I know that sounds really weird.
If they're big enough.
yeah, it's kind of weird. So to some degree, you're just, no one's going to see them like you're going to see them. So But the other thing is, if you put something lighter on it, it's going to forward more. Just like when you want your cheekbones to be bigger, you put something light right here and they pop up. So if you're concealing a zit, you actually should go a little bit darker if it's 3D. You don't want to draw attention to it, but similarly, because the area is already red and inflamed, if you put something really white on top of it, it's going to be like, look at me!
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, so using something a little darker and creamy is going to like set it in.
Okay. Usually I just apply my concealer with my finger. Should I be using some kind of a sponge, some special kind of brush? Does it vary depending on what type of blemish you're covering up?
Yes, it does vary depending on what kind of blemish you're covering up. Okay, so this is nice for anything that comes to a tip. This is a little bit wide, but anything that comes to a tip is nice for covering acne. I also think that fluffy brushes are underutilized in concealing because they have a nice natural finish to them. Now similarly, you can kind of like spread out one layer of fluffy with a fluffy brush, right? And then you can go in with something a lot more fine tipped. And kind of almost like a lip brush or something. Let me see if I can find it. Almost something with this kind of a like, well, this is a little blunt, but just like going in on the edge. So you kind of want that gradient, like faded color to be there.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yes. In terms of having a slight shimmer in your blush and also your highlighting, is that something that I should avoid? Is it going to flash back a lot, or is it something that's going to add to the nice dewy finish?
So it all needs to be done with caution. So if you're going to be using a cream blush and a dewy foundation and a highlighter and something with shimmer, it's going to get really shiny.
Okay.
So the trick is to use something like Face and Body that has a dewy finish, but then to set it, and then maybe even use a little bit of a matte powder just in the T-zone to make it so, like, you want to kind of pick and choose where you have the shimmer.
Okay.
So shimmer here, good. Shimmer here, bad.
All right.
So yeah, like,
I do want to do a little bit of contouring for my wedding, so I don't want it to be obvious. Should I use like a powdered bronzer, or are any of like those cream type of, I don't even know what you call them. They're like a chubby stick, but it's a cream bronze type thing. What's going on with that stuff?
Okay, so I think that the biggest thing to think about when you're contouring is what kind of lighting conditions you're going to be in.
Okay.
If you're in natural light, that is the most unforgiving in terms of like if you have a lot of contouring on, if you have a lot of foundation, you're gonna see it. Just like when you're in your car and you look in your
Yeah.
rearview mirror and you're horrified. It's like that moment. So keeping it natural. I don't have any preference over a powder versus a non-powder. I think they're both good if used the right way.
Okay.
I do think bronzers can oxidize, and I think that bronzers are a little too warm to contour with.
Okay.
Because then you just end up with a red stripe down your cheek. So I would only contour your cheekbones, or if you can turn like to here.
Mm-hmm.
So you you take your finger like here, and then you go about that far in. So just contour just a little bit right there.
Okay.
In a shade that looks like what the natural shadow on your face looks like, and don't go dark.
Okay.
Like go very, very light. So all these contouring videos are like really, really dark. It's like, no, just go like 3 or 4 shades darker than your skin, and that's
Awesome.
it.
So basically, ignore all the contouring tutorials for your wedding day.
So it's like, just keep a little bit here. I wouldn't contour your nose. I would just put a highlight, and a little contour, maybe a little dark here, maybe a little dark here. That's
Okay.
it.
Cool. So don't go overboard.
Yeah.
Now, I cry when I'm sad or when I'm too happy.
Okay.
So I know I'm going to need a really good waterproof mascara that's not going to flake, but I also really don't like the way plain black mascara looks on me. It
Okay.
tends to be like really harsh against my skin, so I always do black brown, but I haven't been able to find a good waterproof black brown. Do you know of one, or should I get a really good black brown mascara and then put some kind of a waterproof sealer over it?
Ooh. I think there's so many good mascaras out there that you have to be able to find a good black brown
Yeah.
without having to do like 10 extra steps. I think the sealer thing is dangerous, because what if you don't totally seal it in, right?
Oh, okay.
Or you could just be adding, or say something is like kind of waterproof, like you know when you try to run a comb through your hair and you have hairspray in it?
Yeah.
You'd basically be doing that to your eyelashes as you're applying
Okay.
the sealer, so you run
That
the
makes
risk of
sense.
ripping them out more.
Yeah.
And I would just stick to one thing.
Okay.
That's me. I keep it simple.
And since I'm going to be weeping like a baby the entire time, my eyes are probably going to get red. I've seen some people use eye drops that I guess like dilate the blood vessels in their eyes. Is that like a no-go thing? Should I just stick to like a nude waterline? Is white too harsh to use?
White is too harsh.
Okay.
I would do nude. There are really good, again, MAC has them, but it's just a flesh tone stick or whatever that you can put in your eye. It just looks like a lip liner or an eyeliner pencil. And I use it to open up the whites of the eye and make everything look really good.
Mm-hmm.
You can use water drops like Visine, or eye drops like Visine and stuff.
Yeah.
And they even have ones that my coworker was trying to put on me the other day that are like from France, that make your eyes look more blue.
What?
That have like blue dye in them. And he's
What?
like, here, let me put them in your eye. And I was like,
Oh, hell no. So what about fake eyelashes? I don't want to look like I have caterpillars. I feel them flapping in the breeze, but everyone's telling me I need fake eyelashes. No.
But I think they're really pretty. So I think like a coat of mascara and then putting down a couple individuals is great. I can show you how to do them.
Awesome.
Or I think you can get really not that intense lash strips, because there are so many options out there for lashes.
Okay.
There are more natural looking ones too.
Because my skin, it's not really lacking oil, it's lacking water. I get really dehydrated really easily. Pretty much like 2 hours into the day, if I'm out in the sun, I'm getting my little fine lines showing up everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen these like hydrating mist sprays. Do those work? Will they mess up my makeup? Are they even worth it?
They just seem kind of scary to me.
Right. Okay. I trust you.
I don't know. We had them next to like where I worked, and people were like, "Yes, this is this like." I don't want to name a brand and like knock them, but this was like, "This is a water spray," and I was like, "So." This is basically like an upgraded version of the Walmart like fan with the spritzer. Like,
Right?
I don't understand. Like, what does this do?
Yeah.
I know the fixer spray is like claimed that it like rejuvenates, but I'm like, I don't know. I feel like serums do a lot more than.
Someone tried to sell one of those to me and said, oh, Beyonce uses it. Like, for what? They couldn't explain to me how it actually works and what it does, so.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the problem I had with them too, where I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So.
Show me the proof. Alright, so is there anything that brides probably should ask about wedding makeup and forget to?
I think reference photos are great. I think too many reference photos that are way too different can make things complicated. And I think so often people think things are natural that are so far removed from nature. It's like astonishing. They're like, I don't want to look like I have too much. I just want to look natural. Like this picture of Kim Kardashian. And you're like, hey, her makeup is beautiful, and it is like, it's what we call a whole lot of nothing. But it's
really made up.
It's really made up, you know. So I think that just being aware of how much makeup celebrities have on, and how much retouching is done.
That's a big one.
Is big. And then I think that the airbrush thing is also, can I go on a little? Okay.
Airbrush makeup.
So people will be like, I want airbrush because I want to look airbrushed. Well, that's not really how it works. Like it's just because you're spraying something on as opposed to putting it on with a brush doesn't make it look like you photoshopped a photo. It's just splattering something as opposed to applying it the other way. So the thing about airbrush is it can cling to the hair on the face, and it can make your skin look really built up. Like, you know how like dew rests on a spider web?
Yeah, I have a lot of that peach fuzz.
Yeah, so do I. It can do that, and you can't put on a huge coat of it. So it can be very nice, but I wouldn't marry yourself to the idea of airbrush because it's not the best on everyone's skin. Yeah.
Is there one holy grail item that I should probably invest in for my big day?
A lip exfoliator, which seems really like random, but sometimes people have dead skin on their lips. Or like, I think whitening strips.
Good one.
And then the waterline thing I think is really clutch, and not enough people go for that. And concealer. And now I'm listing everything. Okay. So yeah. I mean, I guess I would just like not fall into the trap of wanting to put like everything on your face, because the more you have on, the more you have on. So like putting a primer and a serum and a this and a that and a layer and a layer, it's like it increases your odds for allergy, and you're going out of town for your wedding. You don't know how your skin's going to react in different climates. So things that work here might not work the same there. I would also cover your bases in that regard. So if you know your skin could be dry or could be over oily, like have things to prep for that.
Okay.
And then try it out and take a photograph of it, and like look at the photograph not at the time, because sometimes you're in the moment, you can't really see what you like. And then when you look at it like 2 or 3 days later, you're like, oh, actually my hair wasn't that big, or oh, my blush wasn't too dark. I actually look a little washed out.
So kind of like sleep on it a little bit. Yeah. Nice.
So, and see how things photograph in daylight and in indoor light too, just to give yourself a feel for what it's going to look like, because you don't know how it's going to read in person.
Okay.
So
cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all your expertise. We'll show you the finished look that she's about to do on my face for my wedding day makeup. And then you can also go over to her channel. I'll link that in the description below and somewhere on this video, so you can actually watch her do the entire demo on my face. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks.